I was gonna say check, but I can see the little bar moving down there already. I really hope Josh Hawley sees this one, by the way. It's not really the topic, but it's kind of related. Like, yo, check it out. I'm trying to download that. I have a script doing its darndest to get the heckin' chonkers model over there. Hooey! Oh, hey there, furries and sickos. Welcome to the toy chest. You probably left this on autoplay and are wondering who the fuck this guy is. It's okay. Really, I'm okay. I'm just like the last wacky, wonderful tech video you just watched. I'll fit right in, I'm sure. Oh, the way I pronounce sure, that just really gave it away for even the people who were closing their eyes and taking a nap, wasn't it? So, in case you haven't noticed, I'm from Minnesota, and this video is about something that might give just a tiny bit of hopium for the future, because there's been a lot of bad in the world lately, but like 10 years ago, the technology was pretty much the same. The only difference was we went from TVs being full HD to TVs being 3D for some weird reason, and not enough people bought them. They just wanted TVs in 4K, so they're 4K now because fuck it, I guess. I am a normal spung, and this is a Christian Minecraft server. Okay, so yeah, this is DeepSeek, and I already demoed that in another video. I mean, you can watch that if you want to see that, but this is about what open source is in general and why it's such a hot thing. What the cool kids are doing and are very much into these days. Why it's attracting all sorts of rebellious people from very different backgrounds and for very different reasons of being rebellious, but I digress. Not all rebellion is smart and for a good reason or idea, but I digress. But as far as filming this episode of this highly professional and mature program, the kind of edutainment that even religious Mormons in Utah would approve of. But what is open source? Really? What is open source? Well, isn't that a highly philosophical question that an AI can never completely give the answer to? What? One of the viewers wanted to know what Ash Wednesday is, and I needed to show them a demonstration, okay? Like I said, this is a Christian Minecraft server. What if I told you that the only path to Christ is to accept the reality of trans rights, that you have to support them and you have to have them to be redeemed? It's when the exact instructions for making something are included in the thing, all the process that went into making the item. In the normal Spong economy, if you have something like a can of Diet Pepsi, there are industry secrets involved in how this happens. And there are enormous costs in doing something like making the can. Sure, the patent expired, but good luck getting the equipment to make another aluminum can out of sheets of aluminum, and good luck getting sheets of aluminum, and so on. There are upfront costs to making the can, and making it in this specific way. But more importantly, there is something inside the can. There is a proprietary chemical, the composition of which is a bit of an industry secret in how that is made. This lining inside the can prevents aluminum from going into your body. One of those things that RFK Jr. and actual health professionals might agree is a bad thing. That it is good that this can has a chemical liner that prevents aluminum from going into your body. When you get aluminum foil, there is a chemical, and the shiny side is supposed to go up when the dull side touching the food and going down. It is the same thing, and it is a secret, and you have to pay a company to get that secret chemical. Another thing that is inside this can is the greatest beverage that has ever been made and ever will be made. Diet Pepsi. That is my genuine opinion of this product. And I hope they give me money for saying that. It is also my genuine opinion. It's like Bill Cosby and Coke. Bad reference, bad reference. Moving on. If you want to make your own Diet Pepsi, surprisingly, you can do that without being sued. But you have to get a license to do that. There's a big Pepsi bottling plant. I already have experience in manufacturing, and I would love to be able to do that, but unfortunately, you guys killed the zip rail, so I can't work for you now. I don't mean Pepsi Rochester in particular, but like Pepsi bottling Rochester. I passed it when I went to Olmsted County. Wait, there is a commuter bus to Rochester, which basically serves the same purpose, so I take all of that back now. I might drop a resume, who knows. So it is when the instructions to build another thing are included in the thing, so it kind of sounds like a piece of IKEA furniture, and that's not really open source in and of itself, but the secret ingredient is more permission. Like, yeah, you get more layers to the permission cake than just you can build another one. And everything behind me on the screen grab this screen behind me. Yeah, you're given layers of permission except for uh, the background image. That is Hickey art, and you would need her I would need her permission to make an operating system with this background. That's the difference between open source and proprietary. The art that Hickey art made is proprietary. I have to claim fair use and say that yes, I am someone who supports trans rights, and if you don't, then this is not the YouTube channel for you. Go find someone else less fun to get you your open source information. Literally anyone else in the open source community. I'm here to give fun to people who deserve it. But as for the rest of the desktop, like, I have 4 widgets here. 3 of them are Weather Underground, the forecasting organization, not the terror group. That's a different one. I believe they're just Wunderground now, or Wonderground in American pronunciation of the English language. This widget here, it's an analog clock. I kind of like to see time this way from time to time. Although it would be nice to have 12 transition to 24 later in the day, because that's how I prefer to look at digital time. This is 24-hour digital time. You see, and I have every tab here at once now, and I like to be able to tell people, since I live in Minnesota, yes, it does get cold here. There are 2 National Weather Service essay there are 2 iPause being the whole alert system, that there are like 2 emergency alerts about it being really fucking cold right now. There's a forecast high of -14 in Earth degrees, but actually, if I switch from magnifier to zoom in the system settings, which I just did between the takes, I can just hit control plus plus, super plus, and yes, that is the correct term on Linux, and I could show you that actually the temperature right now is -17.8. It gets cold in Minnesota. So if you round that, it's -18. And just because it was -18 degrees on a morning in a February in Minnesota, in the year 2025, just right now, this one time, climate change is not real in any way, shape, or form. That disproves all of it. Change my mind. I also have it up here in the taskbar too somewhere. I think I was supposed to. Oh, I put it in the sidebar. But there are more layers of permission than being able to just do whatever I want with the desktop, especially the way that KDE makes it so easy to rice it. Like, you start out with some more flat variant of what Windows 7 was, but then you could just go into edit mode and go completely nutso here. And I very much did, as you can probably tell. I'm sorry, the way I have this thing set up, this machine, this Framework 13 laptop, let me show you the specs. While you all keep in mind, I do not use AI for um, a replacement for creativity. I use it more as a focus group and for philosophical purposes, but I digress. These are the specs of my machine, and I'm running an operating system that costs $0 to use, $0 to license, $0 to modify. I could take the wacky way I set this up, which as of right now is Aurora OS, an immutable, well, they would prefer that you call it cloud-based, but it's an immutable Linux distro that as soon as I restart the machine, almost all of the system is going to be wiped clean, and then everything else will run on top of that, which that's the real freedom of open source. They wouldn't care if I took something like this and called it something like, I don't know, Loon OS, and had the Minnesota flag be the launcher up there and have like the apps on the side. And I even have some virtual desktops where I'm doing other things. And on one of those virtual desktops, I could run a whole different operating system. But one thing that recently made the news was the use of open source AI, which that's what DeepSeek is. I'm running DeepSeek in the terminal. Terminal's just a text-based thing to run programs in. As far as normies are concerned, hello, Joshua. And it's thinking about, oh, you're calling me Joshua. And you said, when you already said hello there, like Bonzi buddy. All to reach the conclusion, hello, how can I assist you today? What is reverse gaslighting? Hello and welcome to the internet. I'm trying to use an AI to save the internet from the internet. Let's see how that works out. Yeah, you're going to have to think real hard for this one. That's not even a real phrase that people use yet. And now you're just trying to gaslight me by saying that reverse gaslighting is gaslighting. So, what makes it different, huh? Also, for those of you who are worried about the energy, don't. I'm running this on this. It's at home, and the framework doesn't draw more than 100 watts. I did have an Intel board before where it did have to draw from the battery, but now, since I upgraded it to an AMD Ryzen 7 7842 from a 13th Gen Core i7 to this monstrosity, it doesn't have to do that now. It doesn't have to draw from the battery. It's pulling from the main power and keeping the battery inflated, big, and round. If that made anybody worried for my safety, it's okay. I put the thing together from a kit, and I assure you it is not a Samsung battery. Oh, cool. I actually want to read today. This is interesting. The screen that's being grabbed is over there somewhere. I'm going to remind people about this forever, so just deal with it, okay? Reverse gaslighting versus forward gaslighting, a comparative analysis. 1. Definition and purpose. Reverse gaslighting. This technique involves spreading disinformation or misleading narratives with the intent of creating doubt, confusion, or distrust in an individual's reality. It also it aims to lead people toward accepting false narratives that contradict existing beliefs. Forward gaslighting. While less commonly discussed, forward gaslighting may refer to presenting information that directly contradicts one's own or an opponent's beliefs with the goal of confusing and distorting the audience. This is starting to look ass backwards. But let's continue. 2. Objective, reverse gaslighting. The primary objective is manipulation through emotional tactics, often leading individuals towards accepting false narratives without critical evaluation. Forward gaslighting. This likely involves disrupting existing perceptions by providing conflicting information to create uncertainty or confusion of reality. 3. Methodology. According to DeepSeek, reverse gaslighting results in distrust and a lack of critical thinking, with individuals more likely to accept false information. And forward gaslighting could lead to confusion about reality, potentially aiding in spreading disinformation by creating an environment where false narratives are accepted. In summary, both techniques manipulate perceptions through emotional tactics, but differ in their objectives and methods. Reverse gaslighting focuses on creating doubt and leading individuals towards accepting false narratives, while forward gaslighting might involve presenting conflicting information to disrupt existing beliefs. Actually, this is backwards. The thing is, what the goal is and what I would like to do, and what I have successfully done with some people, is short circuit the process of gaslighting to the point that even they believe they are being duped and manipulated by someone else. But the reason DeepSeek has really been in the news is because it completely blew up how tech bros were supposed to become instant centi-trillionaires on AI. The whole system of doing that has fallen completely apart. Like, I have something well above ChatGPT 3 on my computer using less than 100 watts, and that's it. I remember hearing something slightly. It sounds slightly racist to me. I don't know. I'm not Chinese, so correct me if I'm wrong here. But I remember them saying, like, oh, they have more information to go off of in their culture. Like, as if that is us flexing on them, right? See, us Westerners, we have to work harder, but apparently, no, you don't. By the specs, no, we don't. The Chinese used less information to make a better, more efficient model, and the first that publicly shows you how it reached the conclusion. So, this conversation about gaslighting must seem meta to all of you watching this video right now. By giving the public access to this part of the chatbot, which no one was ever supposed to see from the proprietary technology coming out of Silicon Valley. Perhaps the biggest lever that could be pulled for the centi-trillionaire fantasy where we're all just starving peasants and they can do whatever they fuck they want to anyone else in the entire world and just treat people, flesh and blood people, as machines, that's not going to happen now because of this open source AI that people can now copy, modify, slap their own label on, and call their own within the permission of the license. All of this brilliance above me, you can take and put in your own machine right now. You can go to olama.com and put it on your computer, whether it is running Windows, Macs, or, of course, Linux. Unfortunately, unlike with Linux, which I am clearly running, in fact, this is being recorded on an open source program in Linux. Here's a quick glimpse of that. I hope you see it in your nightmares. Yes, tell me more. Tell me more about how I can use reverse gaslighting to counter disinformation. Thank you, China, for killing Big Brother in our country. We owe you a debt of gratitude for that. And, I didn't ask for the tariffs against you, so not my problem. But that's the magic of Linux, right? You have a whole lot of these Linux operating systems or distributions, like Linux distro. Actually, I want to do that in a new tab. Okay, there we go. I'll talk about that on my other YouTube channel. But yeah, Linux distribution should be one of the first images. You get like all the distros. These are all different Linux operating systems right here. If I could get a proper render of this PNG. Each of these icon-size images is a different distribution of Linux. It is someone taking an operating system that is based on Linux, making changes, slapping a new label, and calling it their own. For most of the things that you can buy, you can't do this. In fact, one of the major reasons that food prices are so high right now is because even if you work on a farm, if you own a farm or want to start a new farm, these are the guys you have to buy your seeds from. And they're pretty much a monopoly, just like the tech industry. And there's a company in Minnesota that does the same shit too. They're called Cargill, and they're only the largest private company in the entire world. Number one almost continuously for almost 20 years. If you are a farmer, you have to buy your seeds from one of these two companies, and you cannot, under any circumstances, keep your own. These are proprietary seeds. that are trillions of dollars in waste, of inefficiency in the global economy. You can't do it with the seeds, you can't do it with a Motorola smartphone, okay? I mean, China's got its bad side too. I have an HD radio hooked up to this machine, but I can't take or make the same parts and suddenly start running HD radio or Clearstream or my own technology. I would, one, need the FCC's permission to do that, and two, HD radio is bribing the FCC to make sure that doesn't happen. In Europe, they have something called digital audio broadcast, which is somehow way more open and far worse, but only for British people, just like Brexit, by the way. I really want to know how that's working out for you and if I should even consider visiting London ever. Oh, yeah, I'm the edgy open source guy. You know it. But for any Minnesota farmers that are watching this and stroking their chin and thinking, yeah, I can relate to that because I'm forced to deal with this. Well, maybe if the DFL party embraced this, they'd win back your vote. Because this is the Open Source Seed Initiative. These are some agricultural researchers, so there has to be at least one from the U of M. Just by the very phrase agricultural research. And what they do is they do research, they make a patent on seeds, like they still have a property right to it, but then they license it out for free. So you can buy these seeds and put them on your farm, and then you can keep some of the seeds and claim them as your own. They give you the right to do that. In fact, not only do they do that, they give you the right to do your own agricultural research. They give you the right to modify the seeds and call them your own and slap your own label on it and sell that. What open source offers to the global economy is something that it has sorely been missing for about 20 years at this point. Like, there was a golden age where there was abundance of competition as people were buying each other out in an aggressive business environment in like the late 1990s. That is gone. The late 1990s and early 2000s, gone now. But open source gives us all the chance to bring it back. Open source isn't just about Linux or AI. It can also apply to things. Physical objects. You could argue that it is a backdoor to bringing competition back into the marketplace for everything. In fact, at CES, the Consumer Electronics Show, by the way, with reverse gaslighting, you're still technically lying, but you're doing that to aim people towards the truth. I'll cover that another time on a different channel, okay? Yeah! Boys and girls, I'm the edgy Simon Whistler. Why not hardware and software? That was not the article I was looking for. Hey, Joe, don't judge my YouTube algorithm and I won't judge yours, okay? Anyway, they're coming out with Linux handheld smartphones and cyber decks, and for like the past 5 years, there hasn't been a good model. Your choice was the Pine Phone and Pine Phone Pro, and that was it. But now they're coming up with more real things that are actually Linux. They're not just Android that have the Google proprietary parts smashed in. Like, I know you can fork Android to some extent and take those parts, slap a new label, and call it your own. But now we're starting to get things that are actually based on the Linux kernel and could thus run on a lot more hardware with all the drivers built in. That just happened this year at this CES. So the video's here with weeks ago, and then there's this.
Is a modular Linux handheld computer. Right. We went with the
Modular.
idea that we see a lot of
Modular.
consumer electronics
Like this
which are,
Framework
wonderful
laptop.
computers, but they are logged.
Framework's actually a proprietary company with its own patents, but a lot of people put Linux on it anyway just because of the modular part. It's good for the environment to have this kind of innovation where you can just swap parts instead of having to chuck your old thing or throw it to the e-waste plant all the time. And if you're working at an e-waste plant and you're like, oh no, well, actually, open source has something for you as well. A lot of those e-waste plants will just turn into stores selling parts. We could bring back the shack with open source, but I'm not done. It's not just hardware devices or software or Linux or farm and seeds. There is one more thing I would like to show you, and that is something called Risk 5. There is an architecture being worked on for processors, the kind that Intel, AMD, and ARM make. ARM being the thing where if you're like, I have an M1 actually, M2, M3, you have an ARM processor in there. It's based off of that, but there's a new game in town. It's called Risk V. It's being worked on by Berkeley, which did most of the work that went into Linux and OpenBSD. OpenBSD being another thing you can open source, make your own operating system, slap a new label, etc., etc. But Risk V is a processor architecture where you can make your own processors with it. It could be whatever kind of processor you want. This could be a monumental shift in how we approach computers and how expensive they could get. If there's anything that will soften the blow against the Chinese tariffs that Trump taxed on goods made in China, where a lot of processors are currently made, if there's something that could enable the creation of new factories in America making computer chips, it's Risk V. With Risk V, currently there are only like development devices and only a few Linux operating systems work on that, but it won't be long before the big players who helped create this, by the way, start putting it in their own machines and saying, you know what? Fuck you, Linux. Fuck you, Intel. The free market goes on. And hey, I'm a fan of the free market. I'm a fan of having as few rules and regulations in business as possible. It's just the exploitation of workers I don't like. So when I say I don't like capitalism, that's a different thing to me altogether from the free market. But again, that's another topic on a different channel. But if there's a reason that people are upset right now, is that because there are a few huge players in just about everything: food, retail, groceries, the cinema, creativity by people. And they tried to make a monopoly in AI, but then DeepSeek just decided, hey, we're gonna take some of our free time on this thing that we're working on, this computer program, and holy shit, just prevented what could have been an economic catastrophe from occurring in the United States. And all because there are people who put their time into making all of this happen. They are volunteering themselves and any future money they could make, or at least a very big chunk, but at the same time saving a bunch of money in their business operations. And that's why open source cannot be banned at all. Because the same people who could lose from it also gain from it. There's a reason that Android was made so that it was open sourced. Google has a lot of deal with a lot of manufacturers to make sure that you can't take their hardware, wipe it, and put something like KDE Plasma Mobile on it. By the way, would. I absolutely would if I could do that with my smartphone, but unfortunately, I cannot. Only the laptop, which is more likely to be used as a business machine than the smartphone. Anyway, yeah, that's what open source is. You put work into something that you give people permission to make a copy of so that they can use it or modify it enough so that they can call it their own. You give people all of the instructions and how to put it together. If I want the source code for Aurora OS, I can just get it on like GitHub or something. If I wanted to take this image of the operating system I'm running as it is right now, with everything put together this way, I could stamp that and call it my own operating system, maybe something like Loon OS, the Minnesota themed Linux operating system, with some hardened security features for the state's government, which is leaps and bounds better than Windows in any context. Even just this that I'm running right now is far above and beyond Windows security. So if you're watching this channel, I encourage you to subscribe if you like and share if you care. But also, if you're watching this channel and thinking, what the hell is open source? That's what it is. I just gave you the explanation. And if you want to have an argument in the comment section, to do that, you don't really need to. There's no point in wasting your time being that petty, but I don't mind. And that's the beauty of open source. I hope you all are willing to embrace it as much as I am. A gay furry that lives in Minnesota and is running for state senate in 2026.